Hey saddle hunters, thanks for tuning in to watch another video. In today's video I have a highly anticipated product. This is the Sh1kar with the Monarch Platform. This is out on a Limb Manufacturing's version of a one stick. It's just come onto the market. So what I'm going to do is show you guys a little bit about it. We're going to talk about its features, demonstrate how this new and unique cam cleat works, evaluate the whole system, and then I'm going to show you guys how to climb the one stick method using this stick and platform. So let's jump into it. So let's talk a little bit about the construction of this stick. It is essentially the Sh1kar FXD, or the Sh1kar with the fixed standoffs and steps. So when you order this, you have a bunch of different options. You can get it with aiders or you can get it without aiders. And there's a bunch of different options that you can select for the top of the step. You can get the Monarch Platform, or you can get the straight Scout or the slanted Scout, or you can get a double step. I think if you're one sticking, you want some kind of a platform on top, especially if you're planning to hunt off of it. The overall length of the stick is just shy of 17 inches, and from the top of the step to the top of the platform is 15 inches. I really think that that's a good distance. I like that measurement a lot. The platform itself is about 10 inches wide and 6 inches from the front to the back. So you've got about 3 inches of flat and 3 inches of angled. The bottom step is just about 9 inches from side to side. So that works really, really well. The actual stick is a billet construction, so it's one solid piece of aluminum that he's attached the parts to, and he's got some fluting on the sides to lighten it down a little bit. The construction on this stick is just absolutely fantastic. I think it's probably the best that I've ever seen in the industry. So props to Matt for what they're doing over there out on a limb. Let me talk a little bit about the aiders. If you select an aider order, you can select either 2 steps or 3 steps. And then when they go to build your one stick, they will call you and ask you what distance you would like your aiders. I chose 18-inch aiders. And the way they measure that is from where it connects to the step down to where the bottom of the sewing. So there's about an inch you can see there where it's sewed together, and they measure right to the bottom where the stirrup begins. So that measurement is 18 inches. The stirrup then hangs about 1.5 inches lower, and then when I step into it, I sag down another 1.5 inches, and that's going to vary depending on how much you weigh probably. So for me, it's really like a 21-inch step, even though I bought an 18-inch aider. So you want to keep that in mind. And I think most guys typically knock 2 or 3 inches off of their aider distance compared to what they're comfortable with on a normal step. I'm very comfortable with a 23, even a 24-inch step, especially if I don't have heavy clothes on. So I cut down to 18, assuming that there would be a little bit of sag, and it seems to be working out pretty good. So keep that in mind when you're selecting your aider length. So one last thing that I wanted to mention about the aiders before we move on. Matt has designed these aiders to be removable. So as you can see, they just slip right over the end of the stick, unlike some other varieties on the market that are slotted and permanently attached to the stick. So that's really nice. You can just super easily slide them off, and you'll be able to buy aiders directly from out on a limb. And I think that's really nice. For example, if you get your spacing wrong when you order them, you're not totally out of the water. You can save them, buy new ones, or maybe you want to go with shorter length aiders for the winter time when you've got a lot of bulky layers on. You can just simply pull these out, order new aiders, slide them on, and you're good to go for the late season. So I think that that is really well thought through. They fit on there nice and tight. I'm not worried about them sliding off at all. I think that's just an excellent feature. Well, let's talk a little bit about the Cam Cleat. I know a lot of guys are interested in the Cam Cleat. How does it work? How does it function? Is it a good product? Let's see here. So basically, when Matt ships this, you have 2 options. The Cam Cleat is on the front, and there's a button on the back. And you could, I believe he said you can swap them out so you can run the button on the front if you want to. I'm going to try to run the Cam Cleat, and these are Cam Cleats that come from the sail industry. So Interesting application. Nobody's ever used this in the hunting world before. Matt's bringing this to the market for the first time. I think he recommends using it with this 5/8 inch flat strap. So basically, let me show you a little bit about the function here. You're going to take your 5/8 flat strap and you want to make sure that you go over the button and then around the front of the stick, okay? You don't want to come just straight from the button and go around the tree. You want to come around the step. You're going to go around your tree, and then all you got to do to use this cam cleat is come down into the cam cleat, pull it out. You're going to grab the bottom of the stick, pull it out, set it, and you're ready to go. And I'd recommend, if you're going to climb, to pull it up and over so that it's out of your way and pulling the opposite direction of the opening. To get it out, all you have to do, grab the tag end. One thing I've noticed here is that there's a point on this cam cleat, and you want to make sure that when you're pulling on it, it does not bury into the strap, because you can see I've done it once here. You can very easily snag the edge of the strap. So when you're going to pull it out, you want to make sure not only are you pulling it to the right, but you're pulling it backwards. So back and to the right, and you need to give it a pretty good tug, I've noticed, and it pops right out. It does make some noise, so you're going to have to, evaluate whether or not that's too much noise for your system. I don't think anything more than 20 feet away is going to hear it personally. So that's all there is to the function of the cam cleat. Well, let me show you a little bit more about my one sticking setup. All right, before I show you guys my setup and we actually climb with this stick, I wanted to answer some of the more common questions that I've seen about it. So first thing guys are wondering is the Monarch really worth it? Does that flat part actually do anything for you? I'm going to have a lot of close-up shots in this section, but as you can see right now, I'm leaning on the platform, and when I'm leaning on it, most of my boots and most of my weight are landing on the slanted part. I don't feel really much contact with the flat part at all. After that seam happens, my boots aren't even really touching it. So that's something to keep in mind. If I go and let a little tether length out and I sit down, I get a little bit more contact, but the flat part is so close to the tree that I still feel like most of my pressure is on the ball of my feet, and that's hitting right along that seam. So it's hard to tell exactly how much the flat part is actually doing for you. The other time that it might come into play is when you're actually climbing and standing on it. So take a look at that. If I stand up and I'm going to be adjusting my tether, I still feel like most of my weight is hitting right along the seam or at the slanted part of the platform. And the flat, if I get up on my toes, I can be on the flat, but once I rotate backwards and my weight's on the balls, it seems like it's falling right along the seam or on the slanted part. So that's just something to keep in mind. The other thing a lot of guys are wondering about this platform is, what kind of stability does it have? Does it move? Does it bend under side pressure? So let me just show you. I'll move around it a little bit here in my saddle as if I was positioning for a shot. You'll see it flex a little bit, and I'll give you a close-up shot of that. But by and large, as long as I'm just functioning kind of like normal on it and I'm not hopping up and down, it seems to handle side pressure just fine. I will say that if I go way out to the side and I start to hop up and down on it, I have gotten it to shift and to move and to kick out. But under normal circumstances, where I'm moving slowly and I'm just kind of leaning and I'm not jumping on it, it seems to handle side pressure just fine. So I know guys were curious about that, so I wanted to point it out. All right, so a lot of guys are curious, how is it to pull the strap out of the cam cleat from above? So I want to show you that. I've got it hooked up as if I were climbing. Let me shift to the side here, and I'm going to reach down, grab the stick, pull it up, grab my strap. Now you want to make sure that you pull the strap to the rear and to the right. you want to make sure the strap does not snag on the point of that cam cleat, because otherwise you'll get rips in your strap. And this is kind of finicky. You got to kind of really take your time to get it positioned right. And I could really see this being an issue in the dark especially. The other thing I've had happen, and I'll show you a quick video of this, is I've had a couple instances where the strap maybe has been folded over when it's gone through the cam cleat or something, and regardless of how hard I pull, I just can't get it out. But under normal circumstances, you just kind of need to play with it until it clears that point. You can see it's not always easy. This one's being particular. There we go. So now it's behind the point. I'm going to pull it to the rear and to the right. Quick pop out, and it comes out, and you can move it up. So you just got to be careful. It's obviously more work and more finicky than a traditional cam cleat that you would find on a one stick. So just be aware of that. After having those issues with the flat strap of it slipping on me and having to work the strap around the cam cleat, I started to think about other alternatives to the flat strap. So I started with straps, and I've tried a just regular old daisy chain, and to some degree it worked, but it seemed like it would cinch in there and was really hard to release, so I kind of scrapped that idea. And I found two options that work better than I think the standard flat strap. So the first option that I want to show you is a Versa strap. This is a Versa strap from Tethrd. It's made of a Dyneema material, and it seems to grab really well in the cam cleat, and it releases better, and yet at the same time it also seems tougher. It doesn't snag as easily on the point, though you do still have to work it around. So I'm going to show you guys a little bit about the Tethrd Versa strap as an option over the next couple minutes here. So I've got it hooked up just like the flat strap. You're going to go around the tree, and you're going to drop it in just like you would the flat strap. Now here's one thing I've found to be helpful. Before you pull it down, take it up, hold it up near the top of the step with one hand, grab the bottom of the stick, pull it away from the tree, pull it down to set it. Should set well, and then just throw a half hitch in behind the cam cleat and loop it up over your stick for you to grab. And that seems to hold it really well. When you want to release it, that half hitch will just pull right out. And then to get it around, I've found you got to kind of, let me move around the other side of the stick here. You got to kind of jiggle it a little bit just like the other strap, but then it pulls right out. So let me show you that hanging above it just like I did with the regular flat strap. Alright, so just like we did before with the factory 5/8 inch flat strap, I'm going to see how this is to remove when above it. So I've got the half hitch behind the cleat just for a little security. You can reach down, grab the stick, pull it up, take the tension off. So you can see the half hitch pulls right out. And I'm just going to work it around the edge of the cam cleat. And there it popped around, pulls right out. Seems to work a little bit better than the 5/8 inch flat strap. So the Tethrd Versa strap is an option. If you've got one around, try it out, see if it works for you. It holds well. The only complaint I really have about it is that just like that flat strap, because it's of a flat design, it has a tendency to get snagged on the point of this cam cleat when you're above it and trying to remove the stick. So I've got one more option here. I've saved the best for last. I think if you're going to try to replace the strap to make the cam cleat a viable option, this is the one to go with. This is a 1/8 inch Amsteel full berry rope mod from Trevor Bird at Custom Amsteel Products, and it works really well. You don't have to deal with the strap getting snagged under the point as much. As long as you pull it backwards, it seems to come out pretty easily. So let me show you this. To remove it, same thing with the other ones. You just want to make sure you're pulling backwards and it pops right out. To attach it to the tree, you're just going to, set your stick, pull it around, through, pull it up toward the top of the stick, grab the bottom of the stick, pull it down, set it. You can put a half hitch in it if you want a little extra security. lay it over the top. That's all there is to it. Once again, to remove it, if you pull on it, the half hitch comes right out. Pull it around the back, pop it out, there it goes. It also seems to pull out quieter than the flat strap. So I like that. That's another added benefit. So let me back out. I'm gonna hang above it and show you how this one is to remove when you're above the stick. All right, so I'm in the tree, hanging above the stick with the Amsteel Rope Mod on it. One of the nice things Trevor does is he includes a little bungee with a ball on it on the end of the rope, so that's kind of nice. It allows you to throw it around the tree easily. But then I've just been putting it through the loop in my Night Eyes gear tie, and it keeps the rope nice and accessible. As I've played around with this, I found out that you do not want to put a half hitch in it while you're climbing, because it seems like it puts a kink in the rope, I guess, in the Amsteel, and then it can make it hard to work around the cam cleat. But as long as you set it in there like normal, you don't run into too many issues pulling it around the cam cleat. So I'm just gonna reach down, grab the end of the rope, grab the stick, take the tension off of it, and then I can just pull it out, move it up the tree, and it works really easy. So as long as you don't have a kink in the Amsteel as it goes around the cam cleat, it should be easy to pull it around the point. So this is definitely the best option of all the straps. Came inside because there's one more alternative to the flat strap that I want to talk to you about, and that is removing the cam cleat that ships on the Sh1kar and replacing it with a cam cleat that's more familiar to a lot of people for this application, like this size medium from Schaefer Marine. You can buy this cam cleat from Amazon. I'll put a link below, or you can also pick it up from Eastern Woods Outdoors. This is the cleat that's used on the Ultimate One Stick. The problem is that this is not really a plug and play option for the Sh1kar. You'll notice that there's two pre-drilled and tapped holes for the cam cleat that ships with it, and they're 1 inch and 15/16 apart. This cam cleat has spacing that's 1.5 inches apart. So there's a couple different ways you can go about attaching this. The first is to utilize the existing hole that's already drilled and tapped, and then adding a hole 1.5 inches below that and drilling and tapping it. That's my preferred option. In order to do that, you're going to need to buy a drill and a tap kit. I'll put a link to one of those below, but you're going to need a number 21 drill bit and a 10/32 tap that does fine threads, and you're just going to drill through and tap it, and then you will bolt the cam cleat straight onto the stick, and you've got about 1 inch to go through the cam cleat and 5/8 on the stick, so you can either buy 1.75 inch long bolts and cut the back off, or 1.5 inch seems to bite most of the thread and would probably work just fine, but you got to use your own discretion about that. So that's one option. The other option would be to bolt this directly to use through the stick and then have lock nuts on the back side of the stick. Now I think, again, the best way to do that is to use this top hole and then drill a brand new hole down here 1.5 inches below it. And Schaefer includes a drilling template, and they say that for those holes to drill a 13/64 hole. Now, it seems just slightly larger than a 10/32 to me. I would probably start with a 3/16 personally, see if my bolts would fit through, and if they would, great, I've got a super tight fit. If not, I just step up to the 13/64 and go from there. And for that application, you're going to need bolts that are about 2 inches long, especially if you want to put a little nylon washer on the back, and then a lock nut. 2-inch screws or bolts will work great. So that's the second option that I think is really good and feasible. Now, some guys are probably going to try to use this hole here for the Versa button, and then this hole down here, because they're so close to what you need. We need 1.5 inch spacing, and these are a 1/16 off from that. Personally, I like to keep my stuff like square and true and on center, and so 1/16 to me just is not quite right. So I personally wouldn't go with that option, but I'm sure some guys are going to try it and try to make it work. So I wanted to show you how big this is in relation to the stick, so I'm just going to hold it up here. You can see that this cam cleat is wider than the stick, and it's gonna overhang on each side a little bit. Personally, I don't anticipate that that's gonna be an issue at all. So I'm gonna take this out to my shop. I'm gonna throw it on the drill press, and I'm going to drill and tap it. I don't want to bolt all the way through it. That way I don't ruin any of my existing holes. And then we're going to take it outside and we're going to test it, and I'm going to show you guys how it functions compared to the standard flat strap and the 1/8 Amsteel Rope Mod. So let's take it outside. I'm outside now. I have the Schaefer Cam Cleat installed on the Sh1kar, and I want to show you a little bit about how it functions, and then I'm going to show you how easy it is to remove, especially when you're above it. So function wise, this is very easy to use. All you do is run the rope from the button around the tree. I'm using 8mm Oplux. You can use up to 12mm rope like this. A lot of guys are using a full berry Amsteel of some type. Just make sure that the diameter of the rope is inside the specifications of the Cam Cleat. So you just run it around and then put it through. Let me show you this real quick. You basically just bring it around, dump it through, and then you pull your stick down to set it, and that's all there is to it. When you go to remove it, all you've got to do is pull on it and it comes right out. And you can hear there's a little bit of noise. There's some videos on YouTube already about how to quiet that down, but very simple process. I'm super confident with this setup. I wouldn't worry about making a half hitch in it until I got to hunting height. It just holds extremely well. So let me climb above and show you how to remove it while you're hanging above it. All right, so I'm hanging here above the Schaefer Cam Cleat. I'm gonna reach down, show you guys how this comes off. Pull the stick up, grab the end, pop straight out of there. I can grab my stick, move it up the tree. So you can see why that's kind of become the standard in one sticking. It just pulls out extremely easy. So that's pretty much everything that I wanted to show you about the various strap options and the Cam Cleat. At the end of the day, I think the Schaefer Cam Cleat bolted on is a good option, and I think the 1/8 inch Amsteel Rope Mod is an excellent option. So now I want to show you a little bit more about my entire one stick climbing setup, and then we're going to do a climb. Okay, so I wanted to show you guys all the other equipment that I use in my one stick climbing. So first thing, I use a 24-inch night eyes gear tie with the loop in the end, and I simply wrap it around the standoff, and then I will use that as a pull handle to retrieve the platform. Typically put a little loop in it at the top here so that it's easier to grab. I'll also use that to kind of tidy up the strap at the end of the hunt. The next thing I use is 40 feet of Sterling Canyon CIV rope. I use a Petzl quick link on the end of it. I like the triangular version the best, and the black's all right, but it flakes off pretty easy. So if I were to do it again, I don't know if I'd waste my money on the black coating. And that's tied on with a scaffold knot, a 3-wrap scaffold knot. And then I use a 12-inch night eyes gear tie that I just wrap around the back of the knot there. And that will simply wrap around kind of the tag end of the rope to keep this from sliding down the tree. So that's the rope I use. Then to retrieve that at the end of the hunt, a lot of guys are using Dynaglide. You don't have to. It's nice, and I would recommend you buy some, but you can simply use paracord with a little carabiner, and you'll clip the carabiner behind the scaffold knot right there to pull it down at the end of the hunt. So you want one big enough that'll go over the rope pretty easily. So I just used about 25-30 feet of paracord and a simple carabiner. And then when it comes to rappelling, there's a couple different options. A lot of guys are using the Mad Rock Safeguard. Great option. It's an expensive device. You don't necessarily have to use the Mad Rock Safeguard, and there's some other fantastic videos out there that demonstrate using the Mad Rock Safeguard for one stick climbing. So I'm going to show you how you can one stick climb using a friction hitch and then use just a regular ATC, or in this case I have a guide ATC to rappel down at the end of the hunt. So that's all you really need to climb with a one stick, other than the actual one stick itself. So now I want to show you guys a full climb, how you would use the Sh1kar one stick with the Monarch platform on top to climb using the one stick climbing method. Alright, I'm going to start the climb now. A lot of people are wondering, should I go with a two-step aider or a three-step aider? And to me, I think the only advantage of a three-step aider is that you can probably get slightly higher with your first set of the stick from the ground. So the way I've got this configured with those two 18-inch aiders and about a 2-foot step into them, I'm getting comfortably 6.5. If I want to stretch, I can get up to 7 feet, but I can't get any more than that. But once I'm on the tree and I'm making my additional moves, my aiders get me as far as I can reach and set the stick, which is typically somewhere in the 5.5 to 6 foot range, so they work pretty good. But if you had 3 steps, you could probably get this 7 foot or above, just depending on how high you can reach. So I'm going to start climbing here. We're going to get about 6.5 feet out of the first one, and I will typically get, like I said, 5.5 to 6 feet out of the next one. So with 2 moves, I'm at 18 feet roughly. But let me start climbing and I'll show you how this goes. I like to put the rope about as high as I can reach comfortably, 6.5 feet or so. That way, the only thing that's going to limit your move is how high you can place the rope. So, got that up there, probably a little over 6.5 feet. I'm going to climb with a friction hitch. A lot of guys are using safeguards, and I have one. But I wanted to show you how you can use a friction hitch to do this. The most important thing about the friction hitch is just that you have to know where to set it so that you get the right height above the platform. So for me, I set it right about the top of my chest, all right? Middle of my, just above my sternum, I guess. So now I'm going to sit down into it. Gives me a good angle. It's easier to remove the strap out of this cam cleat when you're on the side of the tree rather than hanging straight above it. So let me just reach down, grab my rope mod. Sometimes those standoffs bite pretty good. toe to help you unhook. So I'm up. Hopefully you can see me up here. I'm now going to rappel down with an ATC device. I like the aiders because they make it easy to sling over your shoulder. Well, saddle hunters, that's my review of the Sh1kar with the Monarch Platform on the top. At the end of the day, I think it's a really good product. It is super well constructed. Matt's already making some changes based on feedback from the community, so that tells you a lot about Out on a Limb and the fact that they stand behind their products. I really like the size of the platform. It works well when you're ascending the tree. It's just enough to stand up on. I'm gonna pair it with a set of 3 or 4 squirrel steps for hunting, and I think that'll work out really well to create a light, compact climbing / platform package. I'm really excited about that. You know, to wrap everything up, the flash strap, I had a lot of problems with it. It slipped on me some and it was hard to remove. Some other guys haven't had those issues, so your mileage may vary, but at the end of the day, I was really pleased with how the Cam Cleat functioned with this Amsteel Rope Mod from Custom Amsteel Products. Just releases really well, releases quietly, it's easy to throw around the tree, it seemed to hold very well. I never had it slip under weight at all. I also noticed that when I would go to set it in the tree, it didn't seem to sag as much as the flash strap. So if you want to run the Sh1kar and you don't want to put a Schaefer Cam Cleat on it and drill extra holes and all that, I think that this Amsteel Rope Mod from Custom Amsteel Products is going to be just the ticket for what you're looking for. So anyway guys, at the end of the day, I think this is going to be a really good system for this fall. I love the aiders on it and I like the length of it. To me, I think it'll work well with this Amsteel Rope Mod change. So thanks for watching. I've got a couple more saddle reviews coming here in the next couple of weeks, so stay tuned. I appreciate your support, and if you wouldn't mind, I'd love it if you would subscribe to the channel. So thanks for watching.